Hi, we are here today and we want to just give a quick update to the Air Force Enlisted Village family, both residents, staff, and those family members that may have people that live at the Enlisted Village. Today I've got with me Sandra Nunes, who is the administrator of the Hawthorn House, and Bobbi Jo Dominguez, who is the director of Bobbi Village. And we'll talk with you a little bit about COVID and what's happening. What you see on the news is pretty remarkable, I think, as far as the number of cases that have come up in the last 2 to 3 weeks. In particular, the state of Florida has over 223,000 cases, which, if you put it in context, means that 1 out of every 100 residents in the state of Florida has tested positive. Breaking it down a little bit more, Okaloosa County has 952 cases, and of that, there's about 9 people have passed away, and that really equates to about a 1 in every 200 people have a positive case in Okaloosa County. So that is literally right around us. So if you think that the COVID spikes are impacting someone else, it's not. It's impacting us. It's here. It's around us. And we're doing everything that we can to try to prevent it. We have had a couple of situations that have come up. A couple of our team members, both residents and a staff member, have been identified as being COVID positive. The one staff member has been out for a couple of weeks now. She went through the whole cycle of symptoms with fever and chills. And again, she's been isolated. There's no risk that that has spread to anyone here on campus. She did all the right things as far as when it was identified and getting tested. So obviously we're not happy that she's sick, but we're happy that she is recovering and doing much better. But it just goes to show how close this is to our community, and that even though she had symptoms, what we're seeing a lot of is we're seeing people that are positive for COVID, but they're asymptomatic, which is really very scary because you don't know that you have it, and so you may not even be aware of the fact that you're spreading it. And of course, if you're talking to somebody, you don't know if that individual has it or not. So it certainly should give you pause. It certainly should give you caution. So we wanted to go around and just kind of give a brief overview of what's been happening over in the Hawthorn House and over in Bobbi Village. So I'll turn it over to Sandra and let her talk about what's happening over at the Hawthorn House.
Okay, well, the Hawthorn House has been incredibly busy these last couple of weeks, starting with, well, first of all, we tested all our staff, and of those results, we had 1 positive staff member, young person, no symptoms. In fact, the comment had been made that that person had gone out running that morning and ran 4 miles, so that person had 0 symptoms. And then as the results kept trickling in, the next day we had another positive staff member, a 60-year-old, no symptoms, also felt fine. So because of that, we called Department of Health. Everything's through the Department of Health, and we got kits to retest all the residents. So then all the results start coming in over the weekend for the residents, and we had 1 positive resident. Also asymptomatic, no problems, no fever, no chills, nothing, no aches and pains, not even a paper cut. So that person's fine. That person's staying quarantined. We're checking regularly for temperature, for fever spikes, for any kind of changes in her symptoms, and there's nothing. In the meantime, every time something happens, I draft up a letter to let all the staff know, send that same letter over to the residents' families so the families are aware, and then I have to send that to ACA, our licensing company. And I did that with the first positive, the second positive, the staff, the retesting, and so on and so forth. In the last 2-3 days, we've retested all the staff again and all the residents. So hopefully this weekend, all those results for the staff and the residents. And I'm starting to lose my numbers in my head just because there's so many, but I think we sent 124 staff. And when I say staff, it's not just the Hawthorn House staff. We also have AFEV staff, so anybody that would come in contact with residents. And that also includes some third parties, so sitters, the podiatrist, and that's how that's how the program was laid out by the state for us to be able to have the ability to test the rest of them as well. And then of course all the residents. So the residents tests are not, they're the swab, the nasal swab, and I'm trying really hard to get some oral ones for the residents because as you can imagine, that's incredibly difficult for some of the residents, especially the ones that don't know what's going on. It's not, I keep saying it doesn't tickle. Mm-hmm. And then the staff are from a different company, so this company was set up by the state, and we're receiving, it's kind of very kind of checklist oriented. We're receiving the tests, there's a program, we have to get everybody in the system, we send it back to the company, they send the shipping labels, and those are the oral ones. So at least easy, swab one cheek, the other cheek, the gums, 20 seconds, you're done, put it in the package, and off it goes.
So you mentioned the two staff members that had been tested. That was on June 22nd, right? So they're out of their window of concern?
Yes, the guidance says that 10 days asymptomatic from the day they tested. So they stayed home and did not develop anything during that time frame. So when they came back to work, they were still fine, and they're still fine right now. So that's all great news. Mm-hmm. That it seems like they got it, they went home, they're fine, they didn't get sick, and then they're also in this round of testing again. So we'll be waiting for this result, and that one, unless something changes, right. We're expecting results for 124 people this weekend, plus the 60 residents.
Right. So there's a lot of testing going on at the Hawthorn House, as you can see, and it's it's a whole other workload that is typically not in place over there. So tremendous work by Sandra and the staff over there in making that happen. You have probably heard the governor and the senior people in the United States talk about how important testing is. So that's one of the reasons why the Hawthorn House is getting that, and we're pushing hard to be able to get that same level of testing to independent living as well, because we know that is truly the key, is to identify those individuals that may have it and could be inadvertently spreading it, and to ask them to go quarantine and isolate and stay away from themselves. So we appreciate all the incredible work that's over there, and I know that that's not stopping, right? That's going on for the next few months?
90 days.
90 days.
Okay. And speaking of days, this executive order came out yesterday that the state of emergency has been extended by 60 days. So for 60 days, we still have to stick to our rules of no visitors coming to the Hawthorn House. We're still continuing the patio visits and the video conferencing that we have through the signup.com website. And that's, other than the fact that it's starting to get warm, so people don't necessarily take like the hot times of the day, but they're still grabbing like the 8 o'clock, the 9 o'clock, and the families and the residents really appreciate that. So we're still going to continue that, and at least for the next 60 days according to this executive order, and then the testing will continue for 90 days.
Yeah, so that you can hear the status is not changing in a dramatic way anytime soon. The phases that the governor has put in are probably going to remain in place for a while. So that means that we're adapting to what is the new norm, so to speak. So we appreciate, again, all the work that you're doing over there with the residents and the Hawthorn House team. Bobbi Jo, you want to give us an update on what's happening at Bob Hope Village?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of cases, and this touches very close to home. We did about a month ago have a positive case. She was asymptomatic, and things just kind of went on normal. They're very respectful. They did the quarantine, and when it was all over, they were tested. The Department of Health was contacted, and it ended up being fine. They were perfectly fine. So they kind of went about, and everything's good there. Recently, though, we have a suspected, what we think is a suspected case, and we're waiting on results on that. So, and as we continually have said, we would be transparent. So once we find out positive or negative, we will let the residents know, because I know there's a great concern there, and of course for us. So this is the first time that it's been more symptomatic this time. So, so we're kind of keeping a close hold, and that kind of brings us back to reminding what we need to do as staff, as residents, kind of going back to the basics again, washing the hands, the social distancing. These residents, kind of going back, there was a procedure done, so they weren't sure. They thought, well, maybe it could be something with the procedure, so they were going about their normal business. So it's just a gentle reminder that you don't know what's going on, so wash your hands, use the hand sanitizer. The social distancing is huge, and wearing the mask, exactly, us, them, both of us. And so the staff also working very hard, doing things that we're not normally doing. That includes extra shopping trips and doing the shopping on Fridays. We're going to continue doing that. We're taking the bus 8 at a time, so we can social distance on the bus, 3 trips a day on Mondays and Wednesdays. You do have to sign up for those. And then on Friday, you do have to bring in your grocery list, which many of them residents are accustomed to and have been doing for some time and actually enjoy, which I don't blame them. So, you can still do that. It's a way to kind of stay at home, stay safe, and just kind of, again, be aware of your surrounding and what's going on. So.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things Bobbi Jo talked about, being aware of your surroundings. If you go through the gate, or if one of your visitors comes through the gate, they're often asked about, through the screening process, about traveling outside the local area. And we get a lot of questions about that. What is the local area? Well, really, the local area is more or less defined by you. So if you think that you have gone someplace that's a distance away that you would not normally go to, for most of us, we probably go home and we may go out to dinner, maybe go to Destin or someplace else. Certainly that's not going out of the local area. If you're traveling hours away, maybe going to Tallahassee for something, that would be going out of the local area. So there's no firm definition on that. And it's okay to do that, by the way, too. So when you come through and you are asked that question, have you been out of the local area? You say yes. The next question we're going to ask you is, where did you go? And in specific, did you go to New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut? Those are the 3 areas that the governor still has on the mandatory quarantine list if you travel. So you can travel to Louisiana, you can travel to Texas, you can travel to Georgia if you need to, but again, you're going to be asked about that. And then we're also asking the residents to pay attention when they're out there. If you're going into a situation or you're in an environment where you don't think it's really safe, or people aren't observing the social distancing, or nobody's wearing masks, then maybe you need to step away from that. So again, the requirements are New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and of course international travel, if you happen to do that, which is really not happening, and cruises as well. And I don't think anybody's going on a cruise anytime soon around from this area anyway. So. Those are the preventive measures. Those are the things that we've been working on here within the village, both in the Hawthorn house and with the Bob Hope Village folks. Staff has been incredible at every level, and we have asked our staff members to take extra precautions so that when they go out in the evenings or on the weekends, that they're wearing their masks and they're aware of their surroundings and their situation as well. Again, we just don't know where it is. We can't assume that it's not going to impact us. At this point, what we have to do is we have to manage the consequences. So we ask you to let us know what's happening with you, and especially if in the independent living side, if you start to feel sick, let somebody know. And if you'd like, we can help you with getting a temperature taken. So if you start to think that you're maybe not feeling right, let somebody know. That's what Bobbi Jo and her team do. Sandra and her team are monitoring the health of the residents over there every day, taking temperatures multiple times a day. So we're all doing everything we can to try to stay healthy and to stay safe. We ask you to do the same. Any closing comments, Sandra or Bobbi Jo?
Well, I think I might have mentioned, maybe you mentioned the staff as well. For example, I got a phone call yesterday from somebody saying, hey, my throat hurts, I've got this cough. Could it be allergies? We live in Florida, it's the season. I don't think there's a season. I think Florida, you have allergies all year round. But absolutely it could be allergies, but we're not going to take that chance. Of course, I told her to stay home. I had another person who also said, I've got this throat, I've got just a lot of drainage. Absolutely be allergies, but again, stay home. So we're just not taking chances. By the way, we're still wearing masks from the second we step to the doorway to the second we leave that building. So everybody in that building is, all the staff are wearing masks. All the residents are highly encouraged to wear masks if they come out of their room. Some of them, of course, kind of can't do it for one reason or another, but we're highly encouraging that they're doing that and then still maintaining social distancing and abiding by all those rules. So we're doing everything in our power to keep our people safe, and that's staff and residents. So
Great.
I'll kind of piggyback off of that too. So the staff, we also are wearing masks and highly encouraging the residents too. And so since we've started integrating, kind of being able to go back into the apartments, whether it be maintenance or us, I think there are times where we may ask, if you could just keep the distance. I know we love to hug, and that's just what we do here. But just right now, it's very important that we give the space between the residents and the staff. And if they're coming into the apartment, if they wouldn't mind putting a mask on, just to that courtesy for both ways. So we appreciate, because I will say a large part of the population here is wearing it and being extremely respectful, and we truly appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, as Bobbi Jo said, we appreciate all the support. We know that this is often inconvenient, sometimes it's uncomfortable, but when you think about the long-term implications, doing the right thing is exactly what we need to be doing now, and this is going to be what we need to do for the foreseeable future. So we have the security that's on the gates, and we're screening people, so we're doing everything we can. But if you think that you need additional help, don't hesitate to let us know, whether that's with shopping or you need some errands run or something. We will do everything we can to try to take that extra step to protect you and to take care of you. So we thank you again for your time and attention. Don't hesitate to let us know if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Cook with Brooke and our special discussion with the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Ramon Colon-Lopez. We call him CZ. He's a great friend of ours. He's been at the Village many, many times. Longtime Air Commando over at Herbert Field and many other places, some of which he probably can't talk about. But he has ascended to the highest position an enlisted person can have in the DoD, and we're very proud to have you on this show with us today. And CZ, thank you very much for joining us today.
No, thank you, Brooke. And it's always a pleasure to come back home to the Emerald Coast, even virtually.
That's right. Well, it's been beautiful down here. You know how the summers are, and we've actually had low humidity up until just a few days ago. So it's been a very special year for us. But you have, as I mentioned earlier, you are now the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which for some of our residents is probably a new position. Can you explain a little bit about the history of that and what it is that you do for the chairman, for General Milley?
No, absolutely, Brooke. So the position was created in 2005 by then General Peter Pace, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And he believed that he needed an interlocutor, somebody that could relate to the millions of troops under the Department of Defense to be able to be properly advised, to be able to go ahead and communicate with all of the service senior enlisted advisors, using Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force Khalid Wright as an example. Somebody to be able to build connective tissue with them to be able to make sure that all of the issues that impacted the enlisted force were taken care of. So the first senior enlisted advisor to the chairman was held by the Army, Command Sergeant Major Joe Gainey, and he held the position. Then Admiral Mullen came in shortly after General Pace, and he chose not to have a senior enlisted advisor to the chairman because he didn't feel he needed one at the time. He was going to rely on the senior enlisted advisors of the services. So during Admiral Mullen's tenure, he advised the next chairman to potentially take a look at the position again to see if he found value on it, which was filled then by a Marine, Sergeant Major Brian Battaglia, that was serving with General Dempsey. So Brian and General Dempsey ended up having a successful tour, and then the cycle continued with the fourth senior enlisted advisor to the chairman, Command Sergeant Major John Wayne Troxell. Again, so went Army, Marine, Army, then serving with Marine General Joe Dunford.
Yes, sir.
So General Dunford had John Wayne Troxell for a while. Then when General Milley got selected to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, he also agreed to continue the position on the one condition, and that was to solidify the purpose of what a senior enlisted advisor to the chairman does. Because all the way up until now, it almost seemed like the position was optional. The chairman could opt out to not have a senior enlisted advisor. But when you look across the services, never will you see a chief of staff of the Air Force saying, nah, I'm going to forego a chief master sergeant of the Air Force for this cycle. And a lot of it was because the position and the duties were not solidified. And if I needed to go ahead and just summarize what I do, I am a sensor, I am a synchronizer, and an integrator for all of the issues that affect the total force. Even though I wear an Air Force name tape, I'm not solely constrained to deal with Air Force issues. I'm in the Department of Defense and sometimes even advising the President of the United States on issues and policies that are going to affect the total force. A few examples of that is brain health. We're having a lot of people that are dealing with PTS, dealing with concussions, and other ailments. That is a department-wide effort, and I am the sole enlisted member in that panel, that advisory board that makes the decision for what policies and what funding we're going to have to support that cause. Another example is enlisted pay and benefits. When we're talking about races, when we're talking about BAH, we're talking about BAS, the grocery money, the housing money. We're also now having a person that sits at the table advising the policy members from the Office of the Secretary of Defense on the do's and don'ts and how it is going to affect any decision that they make, how it's going to affect the enlisted force. So those are just a couple of examples of my duties and my position. And I have traveled with the President, with the Secretary of Defense, and the Chairman in the 6 months that I have been in the position, advising them on a myriad of topics.
Well, that's terrific. What an incredible responsibility that you have. And as the first airman, obviously you're groundbreaking. And you were showing me the insignia earlier. Can you highlight that again? Because I think that's really neat that you are no longer a chief master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. You are now, by grade and rank the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman, correct?
Yeah, and that is correct. So I mentioned that Joe Genney was a command sergeant major, Brian Battaglia Marine was a sergeant major, and John Wayne Traxel, for the majority of his tenure, all the way up until the last week, he was a command sergeant major too. General Milley, in December of 2019, decided to create a specific insignia for the senior enlisted advisor to the Sherman. And that was part of the effort to go ahead and make the position an enduring position and not a temporary position. So we're in the same bracket as all of the service senior enlisted advisors. There's only 7 special positions in the United States Department of Defense that are reserved for the service senior enlisted advisors, and now the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman. But we mentioned the insignia, and this is just a close-up of it. And what you get to see is that we have the Department of Defense Eagle, the War Eagle, and 4-star denoting the seniority of the position and the rank in the Department of Defense. But I was a chief for 11 years in the United States Air Force, and as of December last year, I'm no longer a chief. I'm a SEAC, a senior enlisted advisor to the chairman. So from now on, regardless which service fills the position, they will be called SEAC. That will become their rank. And they will have the same 2 elements, the 4 stars encircling the Department of Defense War Eagle.
Well, that's neat. I'm sure you probably still answer to chief, though. I know when I walk into a building and somebody says, "Hey, chief," I turn around, and of course they're not talking to me. You know, they're talking to somebody else, somebody young that's in uniform. But your ears always pick up that, especially after, like you, being a chief for over a decade. It just becomes programmed in. It's almost like Pavlov's dog. You know, you hear that and you immediately respond.
Yeah, absolutely. And still do. I mean, it's a hard habit to break, obviously. But I also respond to "Hey, you" when it comes from Janet.
Well, that's good, because we know there's probably a rank insignia for Janet that's in there somewhere too. I'm sure she's probably higher up the totem pole than you are in reality.
Oh, yeah. She's, you know how they are. Her and Maria, they're 6-star generals.
Exactly right. Hey, so we have been working super hard down here at the Enlisted Village, trying to protect the vulnerable population that lives here. Obviously, people over the age of 65 are more susceptible to COVID, and they have underlying conditions which complicate things. And we've been pushing this. This is the keep calm and flatten the curve to get people to try to help make the right decisions. And I know that the military, the DOD, has been working really hard at this as well. Could you comment just a little bit about some of the COVID actions for the DOD and the military, and what you have seen, and maybe a little bit of what you see in the future with the actions?
No, yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to underscore the massive support that the Department of Defense has had in support of FEMA and other organizations in combating COVID. So flattening the curve is definitely the right mentality to have, because eventually, you know, this outbreak took us almost by surprise. Mm-hmm. And it spread so fast, and we didn't know so many things, that I think that that's what created the panic in the United States of America, was the many unknowns and the lack of a cure. The department from day one ended up putting a massive effort to help with logistics, getting equipment and people places, also with support of mobile hospitals to be able to make sure that we took care of the overflow of cases like trauma, so that hospitals could concentrate on the chronic cases that were being affected by COVID. And we also started even helping our coalition and allies from across the globe with equipment and other things. But that is just one small thing that the department has been doing. In the middle of all of that, we have still maintained our primary mission, which is the defense of the nation against all enemies. And we're in a period right now that many of the residents will relate with. And that was the great power competition era, you know, the Cold War as an example. Right now, we're staring closely at that, you know, the great power competition between the United States, China, and Russia. And that is a hard task to undertake, especially when the entire globe is dealing with this pandemic response. But the one good thing that I have to say about the department is that we have a fairly healthy population, that COVID basically scratched the surface when it came to our rank and file. I believe that we have had 36 deaths in the entire department. That is including DOD, civilians, contractors, dependents, and military members. Out of all of those 36, only 3 have been uniform members, and 2 were Guard and reserves, only 1 active duty member. So those numbers there alone will tell you that we have a strong and resilient population that can withstand anything. And it is because of them that we're able to maintain national security in the middle of combating this pandemic. But every effort that we had is obviously to get our population and our citizens back to normal as quick as possible. The department also, one last thing, is that we'll help in the creation of the vaccine. So we have a task force that is now working with other government agencies, including ingrained and embedded in the White House, to be able to expedite Operation Warp Speed, to be able to get to a vaccine as soon as possible so that our citizens are able to go ahead and resume life as they used to know it.
Sure. Well, that's phenomenal. And I think the DOD has such incredible capabilities, both in terms of the people, but also in the culture of innovation. So, it makes me feel good to know that the DOD is heavily involved with the medical capabilities that they have in trying to find a cure for this, because it is obviously something that we don't know enough about, and it's very, very difficult to try to stay on top of something that is elusive and ever changing as this virus seems to be.
Absolutely. And for all of the residents and everybody that is watching, you will be proud of the amount of effort that the department is putting forth in making sure that we get back to normal life as soon as possible. So, but that is what we do for you.
Wow, it's much appreciated. And I know, the residents here benefit from having the relationship at Eglin Air Force Base and Hurlburt Field and the support that we get. Just one little tidbit that you may or may not have heard about. We actually, about 2 months ago, we closed the gates and we stopped people from allowing visitors on. We really requested the residents to not travel outside the campus, which for people that need to go grocery shopping or to do some day-to-day activities, very much restricted them. So we reached out to Hurlburt Field and Eglin, and there were active duty airmen that volunteered that would go out and basically be personal shoppers for our residents. And we had over 500 residents that were taken care of and did the shopping for them. And I think they spent about $30,000 going to Sam's Club and Walmart. And it's really a very special thing to see the way that the military responds and supports the community that we have here. So it's a wonderful thing. And again, we certainly appreciate everything that the military and the DOD does. Just kind of wrapping up here, I know that you have a ton on your plate, and I know you're the top enlisted guy, as I mentioned a couple times before, but what do you see as the priorities for the enlisted force during your tenure as the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman?
So one of the main priorities is what we're calling global integration. And what we mean by that is that, with the force levels where they are and some of the constraints that we identified in 20 plus years of fighting a war on terrorism, we learned that if we were to be tasked in major theaters of war, we couldn't do it alone, and we need to rely on partners. So we're teaching the enlisted force now how to be not only self-reliant on their skills, but also how to better integrate with partners, with other services and other organizations that are fighting towards a common goal. So that is one of the main focuses that we have on joint education for the total force. Now, when it comes to professional military education and those other initiatives, that's the responsibility of Khalif Wright and pretty soon to be Joanne Bass, which, by the way, congratulations to Joe on a great accomplishment. But we're focused on how we globally integrate and how we get our allies and partners to be able to go ahead and synchronize with us when the flag goes up or when we need training exercises to be able to affect the combat power that we need for any given task.
Well, that's great, Chief. I know that they see. There you go. I called you Chief again. The work that the enlisted force does and the professionalism that they carry forward is really the hallmark, I think, of the capabilities of our United States military. And I couldn't be more proud than to have a man of your capabilities and your experience and your background in that position leading us through it, and the priorities that you're setting are going to lead us into the next level. So I'll just say thank you once again for your time. We're coming up on the 4th of July here. We're very excited about it, and we look forward to having you down here in the near future. If that opportunity permits itself, I know there's a projection for that to happen, and if that comes to fruition, that would be great. But if not, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for visiting with us today and sharing a little bit with the residents of the Air Force Enlisted Village.
No, and thank you, Brooke, and thank you for bringing up the 4th of July, because clearly it's a very special day for all of us Americans. And I would like everyone to just go ahead and take a few seconds and read the preamble to our Constitution, especially in these days right now where we have a lot of civil unrest and a lot of difference in the way that we feel that our fellow citizens are being treated. But what I will say is that every American needs to live in a place where they feel they belong. Nobody should be ostracized, not because of beliefs, not because of color or skin, not because of anything, religion. I think that we can get there as long as we start helping each other out. And again, as I was watching the video of the enlisted village, you know, a lot of things end up coming to mind is how the residents go there and they likely do not know anyone when they first come in, but they get to learn things about each other. And there's people from many backgrounds, different settings, and then you find things in common. And the one thing that you all have in common is that you know that you belong there. One lady actually says, hey, I went through the gate and I knew that I was home. When every single enlisted fighting man or woman or any member of the Department of Defense goes through that gate, they need to know that they're home to be able to go ahead and protect their fellow citizens. And that is just the meaning of what we created, you know, over 204 years ago, is that, man, this is a place where anyone can thrive. And we need to go ahead and get past the differences, the labels, and all of the other stuff that is out there right now to be able to be better to each other and be better for our nation. So embrace the Constitution and be proud to be American, because I sure as hell am.
I am too. Great words. Thank you very much for that message and that encouragement. Again, thank you for your time. I know you're very busy. Please give Janet our best, and we look forward to seeing you down here in the Fort Walton Beach area here real soon.
Thank you, and appreciate everything, Brooke, and for everyone, stay healthy.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Senior Enlisted Advisor.
Bye.
Bye.